Last time we discussed regarding the word advice. So, as I told you, every word is an ocean. Okay? Let me recapitulate the part 1. Advice means to tell someone what you think they should do, especially when you have more knowledge or experience than they have. So I gave you some examples. So all US citizens in the area have been advised to return home. Advice against somebody, for example, her lawyers have advised her against saying anything to the newspapers. Similarly, suggest is also a form of advice. So Jennifer suggested that I should apply for a job. I gave the example. Giving advice is also, can you give me some advice? I'm thinking of buying a new computer. So all these things we discussed in part 1. Okay? So the last example I gave it to you about consult. Consult is a form of advice, taking or giving. To ask someone to advise you. Because I gave you the example, if you could remember, tonight the president will consult his military advisor about the likelihood of an attack. So that suffix our part 1. Now, I'm going to start part 2 regarding advice. Okay friends, let's get it started. So advice. Advice means to do what somebody advises you to do. Okay friends? So for example, on her doctor's advice, she took a few days off work. On her doctor's advice, she took a few days off work. Second example, the decision was made by the president on the advice of a Supreme Court judge. The decision was made by the president on the advice of a Supreme Court judge. Advice. Someone's opinion about what you should do. I'm talking about opinion is also a form of advice. Advice means what someone advises you to do. For example, get some advice from the people in the tourist office. Get some advice from the people in the tourist office. So, second example, for advice on AIDS, phone this free number, toll-free number. Next, giving somebody advice. My doctor gave me some good advice about how to eat sensibly. His opinion. Piece of advice. You can say also, just like piece of information, you can also say piece of advice. For example, years ago, my father gave me a piece of advice that I have never forgotten. Years ago, my father gave me a piece of advice that I have never forgotten. It could be a medical or legal or professional advice. So these are the variants I told you. There are so many varieties. It's an ocean, my friend. It's just not just about advice. So medical, legal, professional advice. You should take legal advice before you sign the contract. You should take legal advice before you sign the contract. Tip is also a form of advice. For example, what is a tip? Tip is a simple but useful piece of advice about how to do something more easily or more effectively. For example, here is a good tip. I am giving advice. A small piece of advice. During summer, drink plenty of water. During summer, drink plenty of water. Okay, for example, if there is a stain on my shirt, so put some salt and take some lemon and rub on the shirt. The stain will go away. It's a tip. It's a form of advice. So, because it's a tip, we can give it for photography or any tips and tricks like that. You will see so many things, iPhone tips and tricks like that, So, here are some useful tips on how to take better photos, better pictures. Okay, friends? So, guidance is also a form of advice. Advice about what to do in your job, your education, or your private life. So use this especially about advice you get from parents or from someone whose job is to advise and help people. Guidance. Give guidance on something. For example, your teacher can give you guidance on choosing a career. Your teacher can give you guidance on choosing a career. Next example, parents should give moral guidance to their children. Who should give? Parents should give moral guidance to their children. Counseling is also a form of advice. Counseling. Counseling means support given by an expert. Support given by an expert to help someone who has personal problems or who has had a very unpleasant experience. For example, the college provides counseling for students who have emotional problems. We can say, for example, victims of violent crimes often need counseling. You can use in this way also, someone who advises people, advisor. Someone whose job is to give advice, especially in business, law or politics. Financial, legal, careers advice. Financial or legal or career advisors, okay? For example, talk to an independent financial advisor before you invest your money. Just go and talk to an independent financial advisor before you invest your money. For example, Mr. John is the government's senior advisor on the environment. Another example, so that you can better understand, she's been appointed as scientific advisor to the president. She's been appointed as scientific advisor to the president. Okay, friends? We can use advice in so many forms. Advice means it could be a suggestion, it could be a consultation, whether it be legal, whether it be medical. You can go and consult the doctor. So, to tell something, tips also a form of advice, as we discussed. So, this brings to the end of part 2 regarding advice. Thank you so much indeed.